the European Union and the United Nations. So the outcome of World War II was the setting up of these two organisations. The Jesuits had basically destroyed Europe through their world wars, and now they put this plan in motion to get everybody to join the European Union. So the Jesuits would gather all the countries of Europe into the European Union, and they would set up the United Nations, which would be the organisation used to set up a world government in the future. And we can read from Wikipedia regarding the European Union. So it says World War II from 1939 to 1945 saw a human and economic cost which hit Europe the hardest. It demonstrated the horrors of war and also of extremism. Through the Holocaust and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, for example, once again there was a desire to ensure it could never happen again, particularly with the war giving the world nuclear weapons. The countries of Western Europe failed to maintain their great power status, leaving two rival ideologically opposed superpowers. To ensure Germany could never threaten the peace again, its heavy industry was partly dismantled and its main coal-producing regions were detached or put under international control. With statements such as Winston Churchill's 1946 call for a United States of Europe becoming louder, in 1949 the Council of Europe was established as the first pan-European organisation. In the year following, on 9th of May 1950, the French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman proposed a community to integrate the coal and steel industries of Europe, these being the two elements necessary to make weapons of war. On the basis of that speech, France, Italy, the Benelux countries, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg, together with West Germany, signed the Treaty of Paris, creating the European Coal and Steel Community the following year. The Treaties of Rome were signed in 1957, which established the European Economic Community (EEC) and the European Atomic Energy Community among the members, and the Treaties of Rome later became the European Union. So that's something to take note of, that it was actually the European Union, before it was called that, was actually called the Treaties of Rome. And we move on to the United Nations now. This is the other organisation that the Jesuits set up. And this is from Wikipedia again, talking about the United Nations. It states, the United Nations is an international organisation whose stated aims are facilitating cooperation in international law, international security, economic development, social progress, human rights and achievement of world peace. The UN was founded in 1945 after World War II to replace the League of Nations, to stop wars between countries and to provide a platform for dialogue. It contains multiple subsidiary organisations to carry out its missions. The League of Nations failed to prevent World War II because of the widespread recognition that humankind could not afford a third world war. The United Nations was established to replace the flawed League of Nations in 1945 in order to maintain international peace and promote cooperation in solving international economic, social and humanitarian problems. The earliest concrete plan for a new world organisation was begun under the aegis of the US State Department in 1939. Franklin D. Roosevelt first coined the term United Nations as a term to describe the Allied countries. The term was first officially used on 1st of January 1942 when 26 governments signed the Atlantic Charter, pledging to continue the war effort. On 25th of April 1945, the UN Conference on International Organisation began in San Francisco, attended by 50 governments and a number of non-governmental organisations involved in drafting the United Nations Charter. The UN officially came into existence on 24th October 1945 upon ratification of the Charter by the 5 then permanent members of the Security Council: France, the Republic of China, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom and the United States, and by a majority of the other 46 signatories. The first meetings of the General Assembly with 51 nations represented and the Security Council took place in Westminster, Central Hall in London in January 1946. It also states, since its creation, there has been controversy and criticism of the United Nations. In the United States, an early opponent of the UN was the John Birch Society, which began a Get the US Out of the UN campaign in 1959, they were charging that the UN's aim was to establish a one world government. And folks, that's exactly what it is, and it's always been the plan of the Jesuits, is to set up a one world government that they control, with the Pope being the head, but the Black Pope controls the White Pope. So the Pope even has his own very special seat right at the front, right at the very front of the United Nations. And you can see that from this image. So thanks again for listening. Take care.